So now is planking possible in this place?
Oh, I think it might be.
It's a very difficult maneuver.
So this area we're coming up on is like the last sort of slow down safe zone that you'll encounter in this level.
It's definitely the kind of last area where you have a beautiful music cue.
Yeah, this was a like right now you can hear the harp very prominently, which you would not hear if you were alone, by the way. But yeah, there's like this reveal here, the music. Which, you know, if anyone's noticed, the score started off totally electronic, with the occasional solo from like the flute or the cello, and then, you know, we build in more instruments, or if you're in multiplayer you can hear the harp and the viola and things. But over the course of the game, the orchestra gets scaled in very gradually. So like by now it's essentially orchestral music. There's still electronics in there, but it's, you know, what you're hearing is a big rich string section. I seem to remember Ted, the music editor, saying this was his favorite cue in the game, which I thought was interesting. Emotionally, I totally get that, because yeah, it's your last sort of bastion of safety before it just beats down on you for the next 10 minutes. And I love the design of it, because it's beautiful, but it's like it's a bunch of sort of frozen, like, to me it has a very graveyard quality. Mm-hmm. And so it's sort of beautiful in that emotionally complex way.
Yeah, we're also trying to show you the connections between the cloth creature, the whale, and the stone serpent. In fact, it's like half stone serpent, half cloth, frozen in the wind.
That's something that not a lot of players even notice, really. It's very subtle.
Super virtuoso Tina Guo cello solo here.
So here, this is this is like the last big architectural element that you walk across in Journey, and it's really quite a heavy piece of geometry. But what was really funny was, I don't know, Nick, you want to tell the story?
So for a long time, the frame rate here was really terrible, until one day we discovered there's actually two of these meshes on top of each other, two of these giant fortress meshes. It's like, oh, just delete one and frame rate fixed. So that was probably the easiest optimization in Journey.
Then we had to go through the rest of the game and just check everything.
Double check and make sure.
We ended up writing a tool. And I think there were other places.
There were, yeah, definitely.
Like
definitely
a model so much, put it in place. No, he's there. You can wait for him. He'll come.
No, he sits down.
Oh my god.
He was killed by the mountain.
That's quite sad.
Oh no.
So at this point, actually, when you get
moment to lose your buddy.
When you get buffeted by the wind, you actually start losing your scarf, starts sort of deteriorating and falling away. Like you're getting weaker and weaker, slower. Your flight ability is almost gone at this point.
You can actually see all the way down if you look closely into the beginning of the level. It used to be that you could actually fall all the way down to the beginning of the level. That was a little bit too harsh.
Yeah, that's why in this area we built a second tier, just in case you fall. We do want to have the player to have a sense of urgency that if they don't go, they might be blown down. But if they do, you know, we don't want to restart the whole level. And it's kind of like a fine balance between punishing the player and also providing enough urgency.
Yeah, we also reduce your ability to communicate. Like your voice is like very weak and faint at this point.
Yeah, that was another cool sound design kind of call where it scales way back to the point of, like, I remember the first time I experienced that. I don't remember how far in the process. It was fairly, you know, it wasn't a late change where I realized you're smashing the button and nothing's coming out, and you really feel weakened by that. At least the first time I did, I really felt like, oh man, I'm really dying.
I'm really missing our buddy right now.
That's the power of Journey.
This is too bad.
So yeah, this area was a very interesting area in terms of the iteration of design, because originally it wasn't just a blank snowfield. There was the concept of having a giant wall that players would eventually reach in this fog as kind of a final barrier. But I think that barren snowfield actually became more powerful as a visual metaphor for the player's struggle.
Oh yeah, to reach a physical block and then be told like, now you have reached something that even you can't overcome, is far more sort of defeatist than this, which feels like you just struggle, infinitely, basically.
It's like this gives you a little bit more hope, because originally when there was a war, the player tend to turn around, and it was funny because originally when you walk down here you can surf, and it just totally defeats the mood. So as you can see, there's also some tombstone here we added, because originally without any visual landmark, the player does not know they're making progress.
Yeah.
And it took us a long time to get this part right.
Yeah, the timing here, we did a lot of Genova did a lot of iteration on getting the timing exactly right. It used to be a lot longer, but through a lot of playtesting, some would argue maybe now it's too short, but
no,
I think it's perfect.
Yeah, me
perfect.
too. There also used to be the stone dragons flying around that were just brutally punishing you.
So right here, like the clouds come in and the mountain actually disappears, so you sort of lose sight of your goal.
The sound all cuts out actually, and I think that really gives you this kind of somber mood.
Yeah, I loved that. I loved no music, no sound design, just complete silence. Really, really powerful. You remember in the very, very first sort of mountain overture, we used to call them, I did, this area was like, it was like going to war. It was like huge, loud brass and very, totally bombastic and horrible.
Actually, during one of the playtests, the game actually gets stuck during the white screen.
Yeah.
Actually,
that was my college roommate.
Yes.
He was visiting LA, and he was, he's a big gamer and wanted to know about Journey. And so I said, you should come actually be a playtester, because he's a very sharp guy, and I thought he might have interesting ideas. And the game crashed on the white screen, and he just sat there for like 10 minutes, thinking the game had ended on purpose this way, and he had this very kind of emotional experience as a result. And it was, it really helped illuminate that the final area was not emotionally working well enough, because then we were like, oh no, crap, sorry, it crashed, let's like reboot, and then he played, and the end was kind of like,
Really, I like the white ending better.
Yeah, he actually much preferred it, and so to me it was a disproportionately informative single-user playtest.
And we did have to completely redo this level.
Yeah, we
went through a major update.
Yeah, musically also 100% rewrite. I completely erased everything.
So initially the gameplay in this area was much more forced, like you're kind of on a rail essentially flying through this area, and you didn't have a lot of freedom, but it totally defeated the point of this level, which was just ultimate freedom. So we ended up redoing it completely right at the end of the project to what you see now.
And Matt, why don't you talk about that, because the first time I saw the way it looked, it just totally left me breathless.
Yeah, this is really that blue color that I was talking about before. I really wanted to make that this cool, crisp, clear thing, because one element of the visual design that we talked about in this game was that kind of a sense of clarity is synonymous with the player's ability and power to control the space and navigate the world. So this is definitely the furthest you can see in the whole game, and I think that it's also the largest level by far, and you move very quickly. I think that
yeah, we actually had to retune the character controls for just for this level to make it feel good.
But the idea of this complete sense of freedom really required that
This is one of my most favorite moments in the whole game, of going through a waterfall into some kind of underwater.
How does that even work?
Yeah,
idea
to me,
was
that's
that
pure
you could
magic
swim
right
through
there.
clouds or something like that.
I love that.
So the gameplay in this level is just a reflection of all the gameplay throughout the game. So this is kind of a reliving your memories of everything you've gone through up to this point, but just on a much more grand scale.
Absolutely.
And through the filter of everything being kind of beautiful. And this was musically a huge challenge to get right, because the first versions I wrote, the music was always very slow. It was almost like the theme that you hear in the cross media bar. Like, it was very, but even slower and more kind of serene and just sort of reflective, because I wanted it to feel like this very kind of heavenly sort of place. And then that was like, no, this needs energy. This needs to be like a big grand, Genova had talked a lot about, like, this should feel like a big final push and really sort of uplifting. So then when I did a 180 on the original approach, and the music became like really fast and aggressive, and it was like this action chase, and totally didn't work either. And I finally got frustrated and just started writing music, and somehow this thing came out.
Yeah, and when Austin gave us the music, it feels right, and then compared to the music, the game felt so limited and so slow. And so we actually redid the gameplay to make the player go like 3 times faster. Also, you have full control through the entire level. It's interesting because when it comes to games, it's a mixture of all the medium, and for this level, it's such a climax. You want to have everything to work together to provide the highest possible impact to the player's emotion. And so through the visual and audio, it's very obvious. But when it comes to game design, we always thought that the high moment should be the freedom and the traversal speed. The climax in this game is certainly the final area, but also the surfing through the Sunken City and climbing the temple. And in those levels, you move a lot faster than these other levels, which is in the low moment.
It's actually a challenge to transition from the fast pace of the level to this area where you actually have this contemplative, slower pace.
One of the most beautiful things I've seen repeatedly from people playing the game since it came out was people who stand there waiting on the edge for their friend, and some people who wait for really long, like 10, 15, 20 minutes, or so they say, but I believe it, and tell their buddy that they know they were with somewhere earlier down below shows up, and then they make this walk together. And so some people have reflected on that by writing things on blogs and whatever, and it's just been so emotional to read their individual stories. And this also, I want to say that music here, this solo cello, that was the strangest, I think, way in which we arrived at a musical choice, because I wrote a piece called Woven Variations, which I conducted in concert like almost a year before we were finished. And originally this was a huge, grand, epic music cue of like ultra like transcendence, and it didn't quite feel right, but I or no one else, I think, had come up with what the sort of better version would be. And then but intuitively I ended that concert piece that way, with the cello being the last thing that was left. And Genova called after the concert and was like, I think we should make the game more like that piece, which was so weird to me, to write a piece inspired by the game that stands apart from it, that ended up going back and informing choices on the thing that it was supposed to be a derivative product of.
I think that's a common theme in our collaboration on this game, through the semi-level, even some of the early music. I think that might be the key for making games with, like interactive things that we don't really know much about. Maybe for cinema, it's more kind of defined, and then
Right.
yeah, you can actually get it right the first time. But
I think
okay.
one thing that's interesting to mention about that final sequence of the game, is that it originally started as this very cinematic cutscene where the player kind of control is taken away and we show them a sequence. But in the end, we came to a design where the player really has control through the whole thing, has the ability to turn around if they want to until the very last moment. And I think that choice to put control in the player's hands at the very last moment really makes it more powerful for the player.
Yeah, they're choosing to do this, which is it's a small distinction, but with huge ramifications. I saw someone comment.
Thanks
on
for
YouTube.
playing Journey, man.
You're welcome.
So I saw someone write on YouTube, "This is the first game that ever thanked me." Which is funny because when I very first saw that, I was unsure of the thank you, but I've come to fully embrace it.
So this whole credit sequence was really fun to make because we were able to kind of showcase all the levels that we made before in reverse and kind of have this journey back to the beginning, but we were able to do some things with the lighting and make them different, especially in some of the later shots. You can see there's different times of day in the same levels, which is fun.
Yeah, I really like the music piece that Austin created here for this level. I think it really is an appropriate ending to the journey.
Oh, it was interesting when we were all in a meeting at the development studio, and Austin works outside in his own studio. But we were all in a meeting, and Genova got a text message from Austin saying he just finished this song, or this piece, and he said it was going to be a song. And there was this kind of like moment of internally, like, is this going to work out? Is this a good idea?
To go downhill.
What kind of song are we getting? But yeah.
The song with lyrics, I think, it was like lyrics.
Right,
you know?
yeah, there's going to be words.
Right, yeah, I did an initial recording to show what it would sound like vocally, but I hadn't finalized what the lyrics were going to be, and so I did just a version of just kind of a girl singing on a vowel, really different singer than the final one, but equally brilliant, a singer named Ayana Habib, and yeah, that was one of those. I remember Robin especially making her skepticism very clear to me. I think just to emotionally prepare me for okay, we need you to go maybe just do a variation on the Journey theme as an instrumental piece or something. And so I was it's funny, I felt very safe working with this team to the point that I felt like it was, I loved the collaborative process where I could write something and then I could get feedback, and almost always I'd be like, oh yeah, no, you're right, I totally agree, let me go retool that. So I never felt nervous sending things over because I never felt like emotionally vulnerable because I actually really wanted the feedback. This piece of music being the one exception where I was so scared and I was like, oh god, if they don't like it, I'm gonna go jump into traffic because
Wait, so Austin, originally you told me this is gonna be a choir performance from a high school that you...
That was gonna be the summit. That was
Right,
gonna be...
I see.
Yeah, I thought it would be nice to add choir for the finale of the thing. But it ended up, every time I kind of played with it, it just felt too, like we were patting ourselves on the back of our grandeur, you know, and it was like, it's not about that, you know, and so I took that out, but yeah.
I think that once we actually heard the first iteration, we were all sold on it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
instantly.
It was
Just like,
all
oh.
was it just really fits.
It was the last thing I wrote, too. Partly because I knew that there was skepticism over just the idea, and I wanted to make sure that I felt really confident in all the rest of the score. So pretty much every piece of the music in the game was in its finished state before I even really wrote any of the end credits, which is unusual because everything otherwise was in a continuous state of revision in parallel.
In the end of the hero's journey, the hero always returns to its origin, and so this is also part of the reason why the credits for Journey is actually slightly different from Flower and Flow. Let's see who we've met. Yeah, that's the first guy we met. Then the fifth guy. I don't recall seeing this last guy though.
It was only 3. I thought it was like 5.
So this sequence is fun because it changes from the nighttime colors to the morning colors that you see at the beginning of the game. And
Yeah, you killed this thing, man. This to me is like one of the most beautiful images I feel like I've ever seen in a game. I really love this.
Has the mountain in it now.
the mountain is now visible.
Yeah, I'm really glad this came together because it really ends the journey well. It ties it all together. It's very seamless.
Now when you see that opening sequence, you'll know what the shooting star is, and it kind of makes a lot more sense. So I think that's Journey.
Final thoughts, anyone?
Good job, guys.
Well,
Thanks
so
for watching.
Thank you for
for the
listening to us.
for the players who are actually, patient enough to sit through this an hour and a half rumble from us, we really appreciate the fact you played Journey. That's the biggest reward we can get from making this game. Many people in the past 3 years have put in a lot of blood and sweat into the project. It is very personal to all of us, and the fact you played Journey and you bought the Blu-ray version and watched the commentary to support us, we really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
On your journey here.
Actually, the only AI-controlled character in the whole experience is that little glimpse of one at the end of the hallway.
Which is I really love, because you almost, especially if it's on a smaller TV, you it's like you swear you just hallucinated that person.
A mirage in the desert?
Yeah, exactly. Because it used to be long ago, it was at the end of this area, and you would be like running up the sand dune, and you'd see them and they'd like run away. It's actually pretty loose internally as well.
Maybe Matt does.
I swear.
That
By
was
the time you
first,
play it.
that was
So
also
in-
the first.
actually, in general, networking, like
it's actually pretty loose internally as well.
Maybe Matt does.
Well, yeah,
Well, we
they're
definitely
called
worked on the
Rythulians.
backstory.
Yes.
And